For decades, fitness culture repeated one rule constantly. You must eat before you train, no exceptions. Calories in, performance out. Skip food, lose results. But this rule is not based on biology. It is a cultural habit reinforced by marketing fear. When examined through physiology, this belief begins cracking. The human body did not evolve around constant feeding. It evolved around uncertainty, scarcity, and survival through movement. Food often came after movement, not safely before it. Survival depended on performing before eating, not after. So the real question is not about eating timing. The real question is what happens when you fast. What biological systems activate when food is absent? What does your body actually do without breakfast fuel? The answer will challenge everything you thought you knew. Before going further, one important clarification must be made. This script is purely for educational purposes only, always. It is not medical advice for any individual person. Every human body responds differently to fasting and exercise. If you have medical conditions, please consult a professional. Eating disorders, pregnancy, or medications change everything significantly here. The goal here is understanding, not a rigid prescription. Now let us challenge a fundamental misunderstanding about energy. Most people think energy comes directly from their meal. In reality, the body manages energy continuously and independently. Your body runs on stored fuel far more often. The meals you eat are not immediate performance gasoline. They are deposits into a metabolic account drawn later. When you wake up, you are already running reserves. These reserves come from two very distinct primary sources. The first source is glycogen, your stored carbohydrate supply. Glycogen lives in your liver and your muscle tissue. It burns fast, and your body prefers accessing it. But glycogen is limited and was never meant permanent. It bridges short gaps between meals, nothing more permanent. The second reserve is fat stored throughout your body. Fat is not a passive problem waiting to vanish. It is an active, regulated, and powerful energy system. Even lean individuals carry enormous amounts of usable fat, enough stored energy to fuel the body for weeks. From a biological perspective, fat is not just excess. Fat is biological insurance built across millions of years. Yet modern lifestyles prevent this system from being used. Frequent eating keeps insulin levels consistently and chronically elevated. Elevated insulin signals the body that stored energy unnecessary. Over time, the ability to access fat becomes dormant, not lost, not broken, simply untrained and deeply forgotten. Fasted exercise is the most direct way to reawaken. When food intake pauses, insulin levels begin to fall. As insulin drops, fat cells receive a completely new signal. That signal is simple and ancient. Release your energy. This is not an emergency response from a starving body. This is a completely normal and healthy metabolic transition. The body is not starving. It is simply switching fuels. Now add movement on top of this metabolic shift. Exercise increases energy demand dramatically and almost immediately responds. In a fed state, demand is met through glycogen primarily. In a fasted state, the body is forced adapting. It begins drawing far more heavily from available fat stores. It also produces ketones, molecules serving as alternative fuel sources. Ketones fuel both your working muscles and your active brain. This fuel shift is not instant and not always comfortable. But discomfort does not equal damage in any way here. Discomfort almost always signals that deep adaptation is beginning. One concept explains this entire process better than any trend. That concept is called metabolic flexibility, and it matters enormously. A flexible metabolism moves between glucose and fat efficiently always. An inflexible metabolism relies almost exclusively on glucose for everything. Modern eating patterns completely destroy the need for flexibility training. Food is constant, snacking is normalized, hunger is aggressively avoided. As a result, people feel terrible the moment food delays, not because the body lacks energy stored inside it always, but because it has completely forgotten how to properly access it. Fasted exercise reintroduces this forgotten and deeply biological ancient skill. Research consistently shows aerobic fasted exercise increases fat oxidation dramatically. This is not speculation or a social media fitness trend. It is a repeated and confirmed observation across metabolic studies. Low insulin unlocks fat availability throughout every cell you have. Movement then provides the metabolic demand needed to burn it. But the benefits do not stop at fat utilization alone. Hormonal responses shift in powerful and meaningful ways during fasting. Growth hormone levels rise significantly during an extended fasting period. Exercise independently and powerfully increases growth hormone on its own. Together, they create a hormonal environment that strongly favors preservation. Tissue preservation, fat mobilization, and muscle protection all increase together. This matters because muscle loss is the most feared outcome. But physiologically, this fear is greatly and consistently exaggerated here. Muscle is metabolically expensive tissue that the body actively protects. In a fasted state, the body prioritizes protecting muscle fiercely, especially when growth hormone is circulating at elevated and protective levels. Insulin sensitivity also improves through consistent fasted training over time. Muscles trained under low insulin conditions become far more efficient. They absorb glucose better after the fast ends and refuels. This adaptation improves metabolic health well beyond the workout window. Benefits extend into the hours and even days that follow. Then there is cognition, which most people completely overlook. Many people report clearer thinking and sharper focus while fasted. This is not coincidence or placebo from believing in fasting. Ketones provide stable and clean energy directly to the brain. Fasting also increases neurotransmitters associated with alertness and sharp attention. From an evolutionary perspective, this response makes complete biological sense. Hunger historically demanded problem-solving, not mental fog or confusion. The hungry human needed to find food, requiring peak cognition. None of this implies fasted exercise is always universally superior. It is not a replacement for all training styles globally, nor is it appropriate or safe for absolutely every person. But dismissing it as dangerous ignores both biology and evidence. The body is capable of far more than we allow. Once in a fasted state, energy access becomes the question, not whether energy exists, but how it is accessed well. This is where exercise type becomes absolutely and critically important. Not all movement places the same demands on your system, and not all demands align equally well with a fast. The most compatible form of fasted training is aerobic exercise. Low to moderate intensity movement aligns perfectly with fasted physiology. This includes walking, light jogging, easy cycling, or steady rowing. Any activity where breathing stays controlled and conversation remains possible. At these intensities, the body relies primarily on fat oxidation. Glycogen use stays minimal, making the fasted state metabolically efficient. Fat provides a steady and abundant fuel for sustained movement. When insulin is low, fat is remarkably and readily available. Muscles do not need rapid glucose bursts at lower intensities. They settle into a sustainable rhythm the body maintains comfortably.
This is why fasted walking often feels surprisingly effortless eventually. The first sessions may feel unusual, even slightly uncomfortable always, but as the body learns fat access, energy stabilizes beautifully. Hunger becomes quieter, movement becomes smoother, focus becomes sharper always. For anyone new to fasting, this is the perfect entry. Starting with aerobic work allows the metabolic system to adapt. It also minimizes unnecessary risk during this critical adaptation window. Fasting does not remove the need for gradual, careful progression. If anything, fasting increases the importance of progressing cautiously forward.
High-intensity exercise, like sprinting or heavy intervals, relies on glycogen. These activities demand rapid energy delivery the body needs immediately. Fat metabolism, while efficient, cannot supply fuel at maximal speeds. High-intensity fasted exercise can feel brutally difficult for beginners, especially for individuals who have not yet metabolically adapted fully yet. This does not mean high-intensity fasted training is harmful. It means the requested fuel system is currently partially depleted now. Research on ketogenic adaptation provides genuinely useful insight here always. After several weeks of adaptation, some people regain high-intensity performance. The body learns to conserve glycogen and supplement through alternative pathways. However, this adaptation takes consistent time and cannot be rushed ever. Attempting intense fasted training too early leads to excessive crushing fatigue. This is the most common reason people conclude fasting doesn't work. They applied the wrong stimulus at entirely the wrong adaptation stage. Resistance training occupies a very interesting and nuanced metabolic middle ground. Weightlifting does use glycogen, particularly during heavy compound movement patterns, but resistance training also triggers a powerful and protective hormonal response. Growth hormone and catecholamines rise, protecting muscle tissue during the session. This means lifting weights while fasted is entirely possible and practiced. Many individuals report stable and even strong strength levels when adapted. The key variable is not the workout, but what follows immediately. Resistance training creates necessary micro-damage in your muscle fibers always. This damage is the required signal for muscle growth and repair. But repair requires amino acids delivered through properly timed protein intake. If you lift fasted and continue fasting too long afterward, problem. The body lacks raw materials needed for optimal and complete recovery. The most balanced approach is pairing fasted lifting with post-workout protein. Train near the end of your fasting window before breaking fast. Then break the fast with a protein-rich and nourishing meal. This strategy supports muscle preservation while allowing fasting benefits to accumulate. At this point, an essential and often missed distinction must surface. Fasting is not a test of willpower or mental toughness ever. Exercise is not a punishment your body needs to endure daily. The goal is metabolic adaptation, not deprivation or suffering through sessions. Listening to your body is not weakness, it is intelligent data. Certain warning signs must never be ignored during any fasted session. Persistent dizziness, confusion, heart palpitations, or sudden weakness means stop immediately. These are not badges of discipline or signs of working harder. They are signals that the body is under excessive current stress. Hydration and electrolytes also play a deeply critical and overlooked role. When insulin drops, kidneys excrete more sodium and water simultaneously, always. This is normal physiology, but increases dehydration risk without proper intake. Many symptoms people blame on fasting are actually electrolyte and dehydration issues. Fatigue,
Headaches, muscle cramps, and lightheadedness improve with proper sodium intake. Water alone may genuinely not be enough during extended fasted training sessions. A small amount of sodium can make a strikingly significant difference fast. This is not about supplement trends, it is basic human physiology. Understanding who should absolutely not do fasted exercise is equally important. Pregnant or breastfeeding individuals should avoid fasted training without medical supervision. Those who are underweight or managing eating disorders should avoid completely. Individuals dependent on insulin for blood sugar control face serious increased risks. For these populations, the risks clearly and significantly outweigh any potential benefits. Even for healthy individuals, fasted exercise needs deliberate and careful introduction. Do not start a new program and new fasting routine simultaneously. Add sleep deprivation and severe caloric restriction, and you have disaster. Adaptation requires stability above everything. The body responds best to one change. As adaptation deepens, fasted training begins feeling entirely unremarkable and normal. It becomes simply another way the body already knows how to function. Hunger loses its urgency, energy becomes consistent, performance becomes reliably predictable, always. This is not because the body is being pushed beyond limits. It is because the body is finally being properly and fully trained. What happens after the fast ends matters just as much, always. This phase is misunderstood, minimized, or completely ignored by most people. Many assume once food returns, the entire beneficial process is finished. In reality, the body enters a completely distinct metabolic transition phase. How you navigate refeeding determines whether fasting benefits are reinforced or undone. When you break a fast, insulin rises, and that is fine. Rising insulin is not a failure, it is a necessary signal. The body shifts from energy release node to repair and replenishment. Nutrients flow towards refilling glycogen, repairing tissue, and restoring complete balance. This transition is both normal and absolutely necessary for the cycle. What matters most is the timing, composition, and intensity of refeeding. During the first 24 hours after breaking a fast carefully, the digestive system is actively and carefully re-engaging after its rest period. Enzyme production ramps back up. Blood flow redirects towards digestion now. Hormonal priorities shift away from fat mobilization towards tissue repair and rebuilding. Even if you feel energetic, this is not peak intensity time. Light movement is ideal throughout this entire first 24-hour phase. Walking, gentle cycling, mobility work, stretching, or yoga all support circulation beautifully. These activities help reintegrate movement and digestion without competing aggressively for resources. They also significantly reduce the risk of gastrointestinal discomfort and excessive fatigue. A common mistake is pushing intensity because energy subjectively feels very high. Elevated insulin sensitivity and adrenaline can create a temporary and misleading readiness, but readiness is never the same thing as complete and actual recovery. The body is still actively reallocating resources and repairing from within, always. Between 24 and 72 hours after refeeding properly begins, glycogen stores in the liver and muscles are being steadily replenished, slowly. The speed depends entirely on carbohydrate intake, activity level, and individual metabolism. This does not happen overnight or instantly as many people expect. Here, a key post-fasting advantage becomes genuinely and powerfully visible to all. After fasting, insulin sensitivity is measurably and significantly elevated throughout the body. The body handles incoming carbohydrates with remarkable and unusual efficiency during this window.
Glucose absorbs into muscle more readily rather than diverting towards fat storage. This window allows strategic and effective refueling with reduced overall metabolic cost. Exercise in this second phase can gradually and carefully begin increasing intensity. Moderate aerobic training and light resistance work are appropriate for most people. The goal is not compensating for missed sessions you feel guilty about. The goal is reintroducing progressive demand in a supported and sustainable way. If strength or endurance feels unstable during this phase, choose patience always. By 72 hours after refeeding properly begins, the metabolic environment has largely stabilized again. Glycogen stores are mostly restored and digestive function has returned to normal. Hormonal fluctuations have settled and the body feels reliably stable again finally. At this point, most individuals can safely return to full training intensity. However, one final and important trap must be carefully and consciously avoided. That trap is overcorrection, trying to compensate for the time spent fasting. Training excessively hard to make up for lost time undermines all adaptation. The body does not reward punishment, ever, under any physiological circumstance whatsoever. It responds to consistency, progressive challenge, and adequate and timely recovery, always. Reintroducing full intensity over 1 or 2 sessions is more than sufficient. From there, normal